1. For obvious reasons, the restaurant is limited. No dining in. Some people still don't seem to understand. I haven't worked since March when things have shut down, and I got a call from my boss saying that one of the managers couldn't work, and would I like to, and of course I agreed. I won't say where I work, but will say it has many restaurant chains, and they are all over. The location I'm at is a truck stop, right off the interstate, so I get all kinds of people coming in. With the coronavirus epidemic, we are not allowed to let anyone dine in, just carryouts, which is advertised in the restaurant and on the website. My first day back, it wasn't something I was used to. It was dead, and I really had nothing to do. I did get a bunch of calls that morning asking, "Are you guys open? Can I eat inside?" Some people calling are traveling and want to find a place open to eat inside. I was like a robot answering these same questions all morning. Well, it was around 11, and it seemed no one was going to come inside to order. I hear the phone ring, and once again, I was like, great, here we go. When I answered, I figured it'd be the same questions. Are you open? And can I eat inside? But nope, I got my first order. I won't lie, I was excited seeing how I was sitting there watching reruns on the TV, at the restaurant's bar, and nodding off to sleep. When the guy ordered, he seemed to be nice and understood that we were also on a limited menu. He left his name, which we will call Bob, and his number. I gave him a time for pickup, and that was that. After the call, it seemed to start picking up. I had a few people walk in to order to go, and they all left tips, which was a huge relief seeing how money is rare these days. Well, the guy who ordered over the phone came in, I greeted him, and Bob grabbed his order and left. I had 2 other people still waiting for orders, and eventually I got them out. It was about 20 minutes later, after my 3 rush of customers came in and gone. I saw a gentleman up front, looking over our paper menu. I greet the man, and he is nice as can be. We talked about the virus and about the choices of foods. He was about to place his order. Then we hear a loud laugh. I mean, this laugh was echoing loud. It was a creepy, sarcastic laugh. The customer turned around and I was looking everywhere. Then I see Bob walk around the corner. Before I could say anything, Bob jumps in front of the customer, still laughing. He looks at me and says, "Why do I only have 2 bacon?" I respond, "Sir, the order only comes with 2 bacon." I will be honest, I thought this man was crazy. You could see the customer who was trying to order looking at this guy, not sure what was going on, as if he wanted to say something but left it alone for the moment. Bob finally stops laughing and orders me to get him at least 6 more bacon. I will be honest, any time I would have told this guy no, but I really wanted him out. He freaked me out. I got so many stories as a server, but this one takes the cake, or, well, the bacon. I asked the guy who was trying to order before all of this if I could go take care of this, and I will be right back. The gentleman was really understanding. As I'm about to go to the kitchen, Bob starts following me. He crosses over the string we've got blocking the dining room and sits down, opening his food. I go to the cook, who is also the manager, and tell him what is happening. My manager is, let's say, lazy, and tells me to make him leave the dining area immediately. I grab the bacon from the heater, and first put it in a to-go box. My manager is asking why did I do that, and I said, well, he is demanding bacon, like I explained. I told my manager I just want this guy out. I head over to the booth Bob is eating at, and tell him he cannot eat inside. I explained the situation, the man refused to listen, he just kept eating. I am nervous because Bob is laughing with food in his mouth, he is now pointing at me. It is becoming too much. Finally he sees I've got his bacon, he reaches out trying to snatch it out of my hand. I guess I had a reaction and jerked it away. "No, Bob," I yelled. "You can't eat in here. I will have to call the cops." I storm up to the register where, surprisingly, the customer is still waiting to order. I was about to grab the landline and Bob runs over to the counter. The customer jumps in front of Bob and says, "Dude, get out of here." Bob just looks at the both of us and starts coughing. Not covering his mouth, you can see the food and spit coming out of his mouth. He pulls out a tissue or a napkin from his jacket, blows his nose and throws it in our direction. He literally runs out of the door laughing. I was so angry, the customer was angry. This is long enough, and I will just leave out the conversation I had with the customer about Bob. But I am telling you, people are losing it. I like bacon, but I wouldn't demand it. But honestly, it pisses me off he was trying to cough on 2 people he did not know. Makes me nervous, honestly, especially with this virus going on. I am not sure what Bob's plan was, or what was his point in the first place. I have many stories as a waitress I could tell, ones you couldn't even dream up, but this one really has my brain scrambled. Also, my manager stayed hidden in the back the whole time. He said he didn't see it, but I know he did. I did call him out on it and picked at him for the rest of my shift. Just stay safe out there, fellow servers. People are losing it. 2. It's been a few years since I worked at this place, but it sticks out as one of the most poorly run businesses I've ever had to work at, and I've had a lot of jobs. This was a few years back, and I was in desperate need of a job that would let me balance work and school. I knew one of the hostesses. She talked to the manager, and I was offered the job at the interview. The manager seemed young and a little inexperienced. Turns out this is his first time ever managing a restaurant, but that's okay, because we have a backup manager who doubles as the head chef. And that's it, that's the management team. They're also secretly dating. Why not? And have these crazy blowout fights that literally everyone can hear because we have an open kitchen. Awesome. Oh, and the front of house manager is also waiting tables. Yeah. She has her own section, by far the largest, and expects me, the new hostess, to keep it full at all times. Right. So we have a manager with a giant busy section and a manager who is a chef and always on the line, which is fucking insane. Oh, and this restaurant is busy. It's decent Italian food and one of the nicer places on this side of town. So we get a lot of people on dates or celebrations, etc. We would easily have a 2 or 3 hour wait on weekends. So let's picture this. It's a beautiful weekend night. We have front of house manager with her massive section, she took literally a quarter of the floor, and back of house manager cooking away. We're on a 2 hour wait. My hostess stand is shoulder to shoulder, and front of house manager decides that she can't be bothered with managing anymore. It was cutting into her tips. She said that, I shit you not. So she passes over her managing duties to the other hostess, who is maybe 18, and worked there like 3 months at this point. Other hostess decides that we need to give the kitchen a break, and tells me not to seat anyone. I told her that we can tell the servers to not take orders for a second, but we should definitely seat people. She just tells me no and stares into space and then just walks away. I still don't know where she went. Right, so I go ask managers what we should do and get screamed at for interrupting front of house when she's running food and interrupting back of house when he's cooking food. And just give people a free glass of wine and fuck off. Okay, so this is an open concept restaurant. There's literally only half a wall between the kitchen and the floor. Everyone heard about the free wine, and it's a free-for-all. The wine was kept on a table in the middle of the floor, open concept, so the people by the host stand run over and grab bottles of wine. We have all these empty tables now, so they also decide to seat themselves. I give up at this point, but they manage to seat themselves all in the front of house section, and she told me to keep it full, so there you go. I quit pretty soon after this, and the restaurant has since closed down, which is crazy because it was always busy. I've had wilder jobs, but this is the only place I've worked at that had a manager working a section, and it was honestly the worst way to run a restaurant. Which front of house might have known if she'd actually been a manager instead of the owner's spoiled-ass kid. But hey, what do I know? 3. So this just happened. With this quarantine, my restaurant has had to completely redesign the way we run things. I work in a popular seafood restaurant down south, and with it being crawfish season, we've been pretty busy lately. That being said, most of the people have been delightful to deal with, but there is still that small percentage that just seems to have to be rude. Here's an example. So an older couple comes up to our order window, and the lady asks me for a window. At this point, I hadn't realized they were together, so I just handed her one. As soon as I did, she looks at me and says in a fairly harsh tone,
"Can I get another one for him?"
I brush it off, as some people just naturally speak very aggressively, and I didn't think anything of it. I took their order and everything was fine, until they went to pay. The husband asked me if we had a restroom he could use, but with the way we are doing things, we aren't letting people into the restaurant at all. So I told the man it wasn't open to the public, and that I was sorry. His immediate reaction was to sigh very loudly, and he said, "I guess I'm just gonna have to go find a tree." This angered me a little bit, as we had already caught a man peeing behind our dumpster last week, and we are surrounded by restaurants and gas stations. Not to mention, they had just placed their order, so he would have had more than enough time to run and use the restroom there. But whatever. They left, and that should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. About 15 minutes later, their food came up, and one of my coworkers brought it out to them. And before she even returned, the lady was back at the window. She asked my other coworker who was working the window, then if she could have silverware, but I hadn't heard the interaction. My coworker just called to me and asked me to get a couple sets of utensils, and I happily did so. When I went to hand the lady her utensils, she said,
"I don't know why there wasn't already utensils in there, or napkins, or tartar sauce."
Again, in this very harsh, condescending tone. It aggravated me because right now most people are just getting their takeout and going home, so we only give utensils when they are asked for. I turned to grab her some napkins, brought them back, and then was asked about tartar sauce. I explained to her that we already had tartar and cocktail in her platters, and she said to me,
"Well, can I get some more?"
Usually we make our customers pay for extra sauces if they order platters, as they already have a lot of each. But I was at the point I just wanted her to leave. I gave her stuff, and without a tip, or even a simple thank you, she left. 4. Some years ago, I worked for a company that specialized in sushi and basic Japanese food. It was a good job, but a difficult one, made so by the fact that all chefs, managers, and most of the servers were pretty terrible at their job. But they had all known each other for years and kept making excuses to cover one another. Since I was the new guy, I had the hardest job of all, working the hot food section. Our restaurant worked like a regular sushi place. All the cold food and sushi went on a belt that traveled slowly round all the tables. Any hot food orders, and there were a lot of those, were sent to the kitchen, i.e. me. I worked that section alone, even on days when being slammed, and I had so many orders the delay on food was up to an hour long. I was always alone. I was also expected to prepare all the sauces, clean the fryers, cook rice, and cover the KP when he went on break. I was always alone. Even when we had 8 other chefs in the kitchen, not one could be convinced to help me out. One would spend the days slicing up the fish, and the rest would be preparing sushi, or standing on their phones. Management did not give a shit. What management did care about was my performance. Regardless of how hard I worked, it was never good enough, and any customer complaints, regardless of context, were often excused as being my fault. The store manager, a red-headed boss-type girl, would spend hours standing right behind me, being overcritical of everything I did. I worked 16-hour shifts from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m., often 6 days in a row. At 9 p.m., someone else would come in, take over for me, the restaurant closed an hour later, and they got the reward beer they would give out at the end of busy shifts. I had worked at a fast food place previously, so I had been more willing to just put my head down and get on with the job, in spite of the fact it was killing me. I finally did complain several times, no one cared. Finally, after 2 months, I became unwell and was diagnosed with muscle strain and fatigue. My doctor informed the restaurant I would have to work less, so they fired me. The red-headed boss girl manager dragged me into the office to explain not only was I utter hopeless at the 3-person job I was doing by myself for 16 hours a day for minimum wage, but a customer had complained about finding a hair in her food, which had been identified as being from my beard. Every other chef, except for me, had long hair and a beard, but it was identified from my beard specifically. It sounded like bullshit to me, but I didn't complain. They expected me to finish my 16-hour shift that day. Instead, I walked out. A few days later, I was hired by their rival company across the street, who paid me more, treated me with more respect, and I found a large number of other people who have also previously worked at that sushi place and had the same experience. Fast forward 2 years. Now in a better sushi place, I am in charge of the ramen section. I've won several in-house awards for my cooking and am generally considered to be one of the best at what I do. Outside of a small incident involving a vegan menu event, I really love this job and had generally forgotten about the previous sushi place. Until the day we started hiring new managers. We needed new floor managers, and the company had made the classic error of promoting good servers to floor manager levels, and it hasn't worked. We need someone with experience, and a few have applied. Today is trial shift day for 3 of the promising applicants. The first one did very well, even noticed a few traps laid out by management to try and catch slackers. The second was nervous but did okay. But when time came for the third applicant, in walks red-headed boss girl from the previous job. She greets everyone, scans along the kitchen line at all the other chefs. Then her eyes meet me, in my different colored hat showing that I am at a sous chef level, with the several awards I have won pinned into the side. I give her a smile and a wave. She deadpan stares at me before marching off to greet the manager. Her trial ends in failure. Not only is she slow and unable to direct the staff, barking confusing orders and getting overstressed at everything, she also cannot perform at a basic server level, cannot pour drinks and runs food like a clumsy first-timer. It was a privilege and an honor to hear the other servers complain non-stop about her inability and general aggressive nature, remembering how difficult she had made things for me at my previous job, and the bullshit she had made up to get me fired. Her trial ended early. She was politely thanked, and we never saw her again. Manager came over to me after he heard I had previously worked under her and asked for an opinion. I gave him my honest one, told him of my time working at the other sushi place, and the fact that I still have back problems from it. He nodded, trashed her resume, and that was that. 5. I used to work in a little buffet-style restaurant, so the customers would get their own food, but we would serve them drinks and bust their table as we go. It was a pretty decent job, and I got pretty decent tips. It actually helped me save up enough money to get a degree in my respective field. It also helped me gain some confidence to talk and work with people, as I am a natural introvert and pretty shy. It was about 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the dinner specials usually didn't start until 5 p.m., so it wasn't quite busy yet. But I had a large party in my other section and was switching out with the previous server. A woman, a grape lady, came in and sat down in my section. As soon as I saw her, I went to greet her. She already had a bowl of grapes and a half-eaten plate. She was cleaning her grapes compulsively using the water we served her. Hi. I'm what fiery hell is this, Zero? I'll be taking over from your previous server. Is there anything I can get you, and if you are done, may I take your plate out of your way?
Do you guys wash the pesticides off these grapes? I was here last week and noticed they didn't wash them the last time.
I'm not sure, but I think they do, since they have a washing station in the back where they clean and peel the potatoes.
Well, can you find out, please? It's really disgusting, and if you guys don't, I'll be getting in contact with the health department. I am a reporter, and I will make sure everyone knows about my experience here.
She wasn't quite yelling, but her voice was getting louder and she was starting to attract attention from the other customers in other sections. Yeah, of course, let me get my manager. My manager on duty was in the back where the dishwashers were and talking to one of the cooks at the time. I caught his attention and told him of the situation. She's threatening to go to the health department and writing a negative piece about us. Ha! Let her. Can you please speak to her because she is drawing attention and disturbing other customers? He went out there, and I went to my other section to check on my customers, refill their drinks, and took their empty plates to the back. When I got back to my first section, she was already gone. I waited about 10 minutes before cleaning off her table, as it is policy to wait to see if they were really gone. I don't know what the exchange between her and my manager was, but I can only assume that my manager told her in polite words that he didn't care who she was. She, of course, didn't leave a tip. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates number 94. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I get the feeling that the journalist in the last story was one of the dreaded Yelp reviewers. i.e. probably not a journalist at all. Someone should probably tell her the Grapes of Wrath has already been written. And no one wants a sequel, Grapes of Talking Out Your Ass. Okay, and with those charming words, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.